I think these might be my most shocking Premier League predictions. I'm just going to go for it with this one. I'm going to go with my gut. Hopefully you guys will understand it and hopefully you won't hate me forever. That's the dream here. Let's get straight into it with the teams down the bottom. We're going to go from 20th up to first spot, and there are some shocks in there. Let's kick off 20th position, and I changed this last night because I think the teams that are newly promoted will actually do quite well, but Burnley will be my team in 20th spot. There's a few things that I've got a problem with, and just to be clear, I will contradict myself throughout this video. But when it comes to Burnley, I like the defensive side of them. I like the reinforcements that they've brought in overall, and I get what they're doing. Kyle Walker, especially if you kind of go to a back three out of possession, that's a really clever signing. This guy's an England international. Yeah, he might have lost a little bit of a yard, but he's still got so much experience and he's going to obviously help the group. And in a back three, he's a really, really good signing. Dubravka I like as well in terms of bringing that bit of experience into the team as well. But then you've got a few risky ones, which I appreciate why they're being done. I don't think it's the worst idea. Ogachukwu, big money for these players, by the way. But you've brought him in. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of sell-on value. You've got Humphreys, another Chelsea player. Hartman, not crazy amount of money. I actually like him as that left-back option. And a couple of guys you might remember from previous years. Marcus Edwards, who came in January. Jaden Anthony. Zion Fleming, who's got to make that step up, but has got a free kick that will go in for him. So there are positives in this side. Twanzebe, who feels like this generation's player that teams that get relegated sign. And I mean that with the greatest respect. You're getting it, you're top 1% of the top 1%. But it's Brozier. And it's the goals. You lose someone like Josh Brownhill. Like, if we look at the stats for them from last year. I'm on FootMob, by the way. If you want to check out FootMob, I've been really enjoying it this summer. It's gone to a new level. It's got the running stats this year as well. I'm going to be using it for this video. So if you do want to get involved with it, links in the description. It's really, really useful and amazing for this video. So Josh Brownhill, 18 goals, 24 goals and assists. James Trafford, another player who's been lost. And so there is that change. In terms of building on last season, I do like the new signings, but to lose some of those guys, it just feels like a problem. And in terms of Brozier, I was looking at how his sort of player traits and how he's able to kind of come into this team. And I get like, on the face of it, I like the idea of Brozier. I do. But when you look at his shot map from previous years, we're going back and hoping that he can be the guy he was for Southampton when he burst on the scene. And of course, he was very young at this point. And overall, his overall hold-up play was really, really strong. And he scored 6 goals. So he wasn't outrageously prolific at that moment, translate that. But if we look at last season, I just can't really get away from this. I'm really, really struggling to get away from what he was able to do last season. It was so minimal. And his rankings are really, really poor. Now, you're taking a risk. I appreciate that. And actually, I'm okay with that. The problem I have is I can't guarantee that he's going to be fit. And I think the pressure is really on him from a forwards point of view. So he has all the tools, but we've not seen them recently. And he hasn't been able to stay fit really either. And so because of that, despite having solid defense, and I don't think they'll be out of games a lot of the time, my fear is they won't be able to secure enough points. That centre midfield doesn't look like it's got enough creativity there for me. And yeah, sadly, other teams have strengthened just that little bit too much. So Burnley will finish 20th. But with all of these, of course, I could be wrong. Next up in 19th spot, I'm going to have to go for Leeds. I was flirting with Leeds in 20th or 19th. And again, I think it's really cruel what I'm doing here because I don't think there's many bad teams this year. And in terms of building on from last season, a team that dominated the league, that is one thing. It's that sort of shift in style that you're going to have to see for any of these teams coming up. The ability to kind of go from a team that utterly dominated the opposition. Can you get enough killer instinct from these players? And the big thing for me, again, it's going to be the goals. Joel Perreault, maybe he's ready to make that step up. In terms of that creativity behind him, I really like the addition of Stack. He looks really, really good. I think he's going to be absolutely excellent for them. And the midfield looks like it's got some steel to it. But in terms of that true creativity, I'm not really seeing it in the attacking areas right now. And then alongside that, I just think the size of Leeds is such a huge club. And I think that actually makes life a little bit harder for them. I think they're going to struggle to progress the ball up the pitch. And I just feel like the Farke feeling is not totally right. And I think all of those things put together, yes, money's been spent on a lot of big lads. And that might keep you in games. But I just fear that Nonto won't be able to be as dominant in terms of his dribbles. The overall kind of guy who can unlock a defense is not there at the moment. That's why they're linked with the likes of El Kanous. And I just don't see the goals. Of course, they're in the market for a forward. And I think the next couple of weeks are going to be absolutely crucial for them, because if they don't, I think, again, it might be one where they're like them and Burnley, kind of sturdy-ish teams, but just not enough going forward to get the goals. And the last team that I believe will get relegated this season is not a newly promoted team. I think that it will be Wolves that go down this season. I feel like the investment in the team has not been strong enough, and I feel like everyone else is going for it. So I think it's all going to get squished together a lot better than it has done in the last couple of years with those newly promoted teams. And of the other sides, if you're thinking of Matheus Cunha going and Ait Nouri, they are huge players. That's 55% of your goals. And I think they've just been that little bit too timid. And I think teams have turned them down, which has been a problem for a few teams in the Premier League this season. And so to bring in Fer Lopez and Arias, that for me is not enough. Now, last season, I said that, look, the opening fixtures are so tough. So that's going to make life really, really difficult for you. So stick with them. This year, this is where I might be totally wrong. It's actually not too bad. Man City opening day, of course, that's not an easy one. But after that, Bournemouth, Everton, Newcastle, who knows what sort of state they're going to be in at that point, Leeds, Tottenham, Brighton. Now, there are many easy Premier League fixtures, but it's certainly not as devastating as it was last season. So to continue the confident start that Pereira had on the back end of last season, I think there's an opportunity there. There really is an opportunity there. But the players that you brought in Fer Lopez and Arias, I just feel like they won't have the ability to step up. Arias in particular is a really interesting one. I saw a lot of him at the Club World Cup, and we focused on him quite a lot. And what he was a live wire. He was able to kind of go and get the ball. He was the main man, and he's the number 10 for Wolves as well. But the end product of goals, I think he might be a player that could really frustrate Wolves fans if it doesn't come together in the way that he kind of wants it to. As you can see, 90%, top 90% of chances created. So that's great. It's the goals that I'm concerned with. And over the previous seasons, as you can see down here, never been outrageously prolific for the team. There are some solid assists in there as well, and that is where you'll get more from him. But in terms of Matheus Cunha and what he was able to provide in terms of goals and assists, John Arias, it just feels like a massive gamble, and there's not been enough elsewhere in this squad to not take the pressure off Vitor Pereira. I think Vitor Pereira is everything here. He's such a likeable manager, and the fans absolutely love him, but he's not been backed in the transfer window as of yet. And because of that, a couple of injuries, I think Wolves could be in real trouble here. And that burden in terms of scoring goals, you can have João Gomez and Andre, who I really love as a midfield pair, but I don't see them scoring goals. And so someone else has to do that. And can the collective be good enough? I'm just not sure. So those are the bottom three. 17th spot, I am going for Sunderland to sneak out of it just about. They have spent just under 150 million quid in the transfer window, and I don't think they're going to stop, actually. I think they might still add one or two. I was concerned about the centre-back position, but they've actually signed someone today, as I'm recording this, Alderete, who I was looking at his profile. Look at this, in the top 2% for shot attempts for Getafe last season. He seems like an absolute live wire. I think he's guaranteed to give away. Look how many shots he had. Absolutely incredible last season. So expect him to shoot from range, and also expect him to give away a penalty. When I was having a look at him, look, here, penalties conceded, that's a problem. But you got some additional players that you're bringing into that centre-back line. And for Sunderland to spend that amount of money, I think, as I say, when you're building, when you're going up and you're trying to stay up, this sounds ridiculous, but I've seen the data behind it. If you do spend a solid amount of money on exciting players, then you do give yourself kind of the best chance. You're able to kind of blow yourself out of it. And I think the work that they've done has been really good. Like, some I don't really totally get, like Masuaku. Not sure that's going to really move the needle. But Mark Gui, I think is Gui, I can never say his bloody name. I think it's a really exciting signing. Granit Xhaka will add leadership and calm and maybe a couple of rockets in there as well in the change room for when it's needed. For him to go there, he must be excited to go and do it. So that's huge. Adingra adds pace. Talbi adds pace as well. Reynaldo as well I think he was player of the year for Atletico Madrid a couple of seasons ago. Siddiqui would bring that defensive solidity alongside Xhaka in a midfield three. I think that will start Diarra on the right-hand side. Keep an eye out for Diarra. Really, really exciting player on the kind of maybe the right half space, pretty box to box. And then you've got someone like Enzo Lafia coming in. Jaden Dans could help provide some goals for the team as well. I think this is a team that has pace, that has excitement within it as well. And it's got a lot of players that kind of want to prove something. I like the blend that's there. I think there won't be an outrageous amount of pressure on this group as well. And although the back end of last season wasn't great, I think it's almost, it can wash away that amount of kind of constant wins. It's so long ago and you're stepping into something so different now. You need those reinforcements to kind of go, okay, take me through this. And I think there's a lot of players there that can really make an impact in games, but also lead the group. And I think they could do it this year. One thing that's going to be absolutely crucial, and for me is actually a pressure, is their fixtures. I think their fixtures, their opening fixtures are absolutely crucial because as a QPR fan, I remember we had some really, really good opening fixtures and we didn't win the first 2, 3, 4. And then you go, uh-oh, if we don't win soon, we are in big, big, big trouble. And so that can bring some real pressure to a team. So Sunderland opening up against West Ham, Burnley, Brentford, Palace. I don't think you could ask for more from that against those teams that are kind of not totally sure with who they are and how good they are right now. Nottingham Forest, some people are a little bit unsure about them as well. Aston Villa's a tricky one. Man United might still be figuring themselves out. So there's a huge opportunity to collect some points, to get some belief, and from there, kind of almost try and stay away from that bottom three. But I think they might just do it. They've certainly spent enough to keep themselves up. In 16th spot, I'm going for Brentford. Such stability over the years, especially in their Premier League era. And I've always kind of been wary of backing them because the optics are that, it's little old Brentford, don't give them the respect they deserve. And I've always got that wrong. And so despite Keith Andrews, an absolute rookie, or it feels like a rookie, right, at this Premier League level, stepping into the side, but of course he's come in from within. The loss of Thomas Frank is huge. And then the signings coming in, there's two ways of looking at it. Either you trust Brentford to figure it out, or you look at this and go, I'm not sure. Now, Jordan Henderson, it's about those other elements as much as him as a player. Like, this is still a guy who gets in the England squads. What are the reasons for that? Who knows? But it's probably, more than anything, he's a capable player overall. Maybe he hasn't got the pace anymore, but he's also an incredible leader who keeps the standards high. And when you lose someone like Norgard, you want to bring in someone who's going to help glue it all together. And I think that it was why Jordan Henderson has come into this team. And that's something that I think will actually bear fruit more than people want to give it credit for. The spine of the team is pretty strong. Kelleher is a great addition. And we're waiting and hoping, I imagine if you're a Brentford fan, that Van der Berg gets better and better. Carvalho, with the pedigree that he's got, gets better and better. Coyote, I really like the energy that he brings. Put a great cross against QPR in a pre-season friendly. Malambo is a player that maybe this year is not going to be wholeheartedly his year, but you've got Damsgaard, who was great last season, and I think there's a couple of things that people aren't thinking about. You've got Schade, who was fantastic last season, and I think will be really, really strong this season. He'll be the latest in line to continue to progress. And I also think Thiago, no one really knows much about him in terms of him in the Premier League because of the problems that he's had with injury, but he's had a pre-season now, and now I think he could be a really, really strong player for them. So it's one where the overall names don't feel like they're there for Brentford. And because of how well they've done over the years, for me this year, with my gut, I'm going to back them. But I do have reservations, like I imagine most Brentford fans do. What I feel certain of is that the next move is in play. So if Visser does go, they'll use that money and they'll use it wisely. And I think there's a few teams here that I'll go on to talk about that are kind of waiting to spend. And I think they still will do. The next two, I am still up in the air. So I'm going to talk it through with you guys. And then at the end of it, I will make my final call. So the two teams I've got in 14th and 15th are West Ham and Nottingham Forest. Now, at the moment, as I've got it written down, I've got Nottingham Forest in 15th. So let me start off with that. Defensively, sound. But of course, European football is an addition this year. The squad is lean. The opening fixtures, I think, will actually really kind of reveal who this team is as well. And I know some people won't think that that matters. I actually think it's quite important to sort of get off to that great start, because then it kind of reveals who you are, or the identity that you want to kind of have. Confidence is such a huge part of football. And there is a real opportunity there for them in those opening games. You know, Brentford first up, then Palace, then West Ham, then Arsenal, of course, is a tricky one away. But 12:30 kickoff might be a tricky one for them. Burnley, Sunderland, Newcastle. I quite like those fixtures for Nottingham Forest. But if you get through those and it's not gone great, then there could be some concerns here. It is a World Cup year. So you've got Morgan Gibbs-White, who, for whatever reason, is still at the club. Callum Hudson-Odoi might want to be sort of trying to push for a World Cup spot. Elliot Anderson. It doesn't matter if you believe they can. They will believe that they can. And it is a steady team. I just feel like they're lacking that little bit of depth. And I just can't see how Chris Wood has the same year. And when I look at their forward line, I'm struggling a little bit with them as well. And that's why I've got them a lot lower, obviously, than last season. I thought last season was outstanding. But will they kind of revert to the mean a little bit? And if you look, 20 goals from an XG of 13.4, that is wild. So to ask him to do that again is almost unfair a little bit. You can see it here in terms of his player traits. Absolutely outstanding. Just incredible stuff. And I think the thing to remember when it comes to Nottingham Forest is them as a club. Like, they haven't had a meteoric rise, and they've done so well. So it doesn't have to continue to be a solid mid-table team and revert to that. I think we've seen it in the past with teams that have kind of over-exceeded expectation. And I think if they come back into the middle here, in between the two, split the difference, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. But I think maybe the pressure of that and the additional games in Europe could maybe tell for them. And that's why I've got them down in 15th. West Ham. Now, West Ham have had a pretty solid pre-season, certainly with results. There is a feel, and actually I quite like some of the young players that are coming through as well. You've got Earthy, who I saw last year actually for Bristol City, I think, against QPR. I was super impressed with him. Thought he was a really good player for them. You've got Skulls at left back, who offers something. Potts as well, who's been playing in pre-season. And then you've got a lot of established footballers. Potter's going to come in, he's going to play that 3-5-2. Diouf has come in on the left-hand side. He looks really exciting as well. Wan-Bissaka and Jared Bowen, that works. It fits. Jared Bowen is everything for this team, in my opinion. So you need him to stay fit. He'll be up for it in a World Cup year. Can that midfield... I still feel like I'm missing that sort of... There's a Declan Rice-shaped hole in this West Ham team. There's a lack of energy in that midfield. And then up top, it's a risk, and it's a risk that doesn't normally work for West Ham when you think of their team, because, you know, to have Füllkrug and Callum Wilson as your main two, it's risk versus reward. The one thing I did want to talk about with Callum Wilson is that, yes, of course, 33, and when you look at his stats, it's not great, right? You know, we looked at it, barely played, right? No minutes whatsoever. But of course, he didn't play. So if we go back a season or so and go back again, we'll go back to 23-24, played that little bit more, right? And here, you know, so. But when we make it per 90, look at that. Look at the difference there. So, of course, it's risk-reward. But if you can just sort of Füllkrug, Callum Wilson, give them that opportunity, and these two can stay fit, massive if, of course, you do have players who have got good movement, are smart strikers who, you know, have a pedigree of scoring goals. And so I like that. I don't think West Ham are as bad as everyone kind of is feeling around them. When it comes to them, though, in terms of getting off to a good start, and maybe that feeling around Potter and the club as a whole, which isn't great right now, that could be a problem, because that Sunderland game for me is absolutely everything, because you're going to have a Sunderland team that are just ready to run through a brick wall to beat this West Ham team, with a team with a lot of pace. Can West Ham cope with that? That's what I wonder. Not everyone fits this 3-5-2, by the way. Someone like Somerville, I'm not really sure how he fits in this team. But after that, you've got a London derby. You've got Forest, which will be, you know, tricky because they're solid, obviously, away from home. Another London derby. Those London derbies are exhausting, and it's annoying to have to play those. Arsenal, of course, as well. So It's a very defining opening set of fixtures for them as well. And again, we will find out who both of them are for different reasons. I'm going to switch. I'm going to go Nottingham Forest in 14th because I think they've got a settled team and a lot of energy in there. And I think they'll find enough goals overall. And then I'm going to put West Ham down one into 15th. 13th spot, Crystal Palace. Now, there are so many question marks over Crystal Palace. And it's going to come down to the next couple of weeks for them as well, because it's a light club and squad. It's a well-run club, which is why I've got them as high as I have. And it's one where obviously there's an element of frustration for Crystal Palace because they don't want to be 13th and 12th. They want to push on. And actually, when you look at them, the first 11, you've got a squad there that is really, really good, and importantly, a manager as well. And the market value I thought was really interesting. When you click on market value, Wharton, Eze, Gay, Mateta, all have been linked with a move away. And that's the horrible thing when it comes to Crystal Palace. But it is getting closer to that deadline. Who's going to make a move? Are they going to be able to hang on to them? Parish has spoken about the fact that if Mark Gay doesn't sign that contract, then look, they need to get some money out of them. So he understands where they are. They've got Conference League qualifiers and, of course, you'd hope, the competition as well to navigate. And with a thin squad, they need to be ready to move. Again, I presume that they are. You know, you look at this, there's essentially around, close to, this is the market value, but like how much would you actually get for Adam Wharton right now, Eze right now, and Gay in particular? Wharton, people have spoken about, upwards of 80 million. So you've got like nearly 200 million in transfer fees available to you if you bring them in, but of course you've then got to get them right. I just don't know who's going to be there and who's not going to be there, and because of that, I've had to put them in the middle of the Premier League this year. But if they keep all three of those, I would have them much higher because the talent is there and they know what they are, both from a stylistic point of view and as a club as a whole. And they know it's a special time as a club. So hopefully they can continue and foster that and keep these players there, because if they can, I think there's another exciting season there for Palace. But I just can't see them all sticking around. And the loss of someone like Eze from a creativity point of view and the chance creation that he does create for the likes of Mateta and Sarr, I just feel like that's a big loss. In 12th spot, I had them in 11th, and then this morning I've had to make a tweak. But Bournemouth are in 12th spot for me, and the one thing that I think is so crucial for them is that, again, like a lot of teams in the Premier League, there's not that many badly run clubs anymore, or it feels like it at least. Bournemouth are continuing in the right direction, and I think they knew they were going to lose some of those players. That back line has been somewhat decimated, but I'm kind of leaning on the fact that they will rejuvenate that squad in time. And from like the midfield line onwards, it's still a really exciting team. Still got Semenyo, still got Tavernier, still got Kluivert, you've still got Evan Nilsson, Unal, you've still got a lot of players. And the midfield I really, really like as well. I think I've said it for a couple of seasons now, but I've always been a huge fan of someone like Adam Scott. I think Christie's a great player for them. Tyler Adams is a really underrated player for them as well. But the main thing is they kept Areola. And keeping Areola will allow them to, I think, continue in that mid-table vein. I don't think they'll be anywhere near the problem places. And you can see who they are and how they play here. From the shots on target, they were 4th in the league for that. The attacking aspects of the game were really strong. 5th for XG last season as well. Another one that's really important here, 5th for accurate long balls per match. Now, that is one of the losses. And that comes from Kerkez and Huijsen. That left-hand side, 2 of those guys have gone. Diakite comes in, not exactly the same as Huijsen. And so I think there will be an element of drop-off there. Kepa's gone as well. So as I say, like half the team, that defensive side of it, of course they defend from the front. So maybe they'll be okay. And I think they'll be okay overall with another team that's had another year in the Premier League. But I don't think they'll kind of push into those top areas like they have previously. Nice solid mid-table season for Bournemouth for me. So the team that's moved up a spot is because of a new signing today. And there could be more new signings still on the way. And I've gone for Everton. I just really like the feeling around Everton. I think going into the new stadium, this whole situation with Everton, it just absolutely honks of a good David Moyes season, if that makes sense. I think in terms of the squad, they've trimmed the fat. You can see there was a lot of players that just needed to move on if they'd done well for the club or hadn't done well for the club. The likes of Ashley Young, obviously not getting any younger. Begovic obviously needed to go. Doucouré was the right time. He was a high earner. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, similar thing. A lot of players making their way out of the team. And so what's really interesting, of course, and the reason why I've changed it is that Grealish is on his way. Breaking news. I think this is just a lovely, soulful move for the Premier League this season. I think in a World Cup year, he can go there, enjoy himself. And as I say, they've trimmed the fat of this squad. And now you've got a lot of players that, I think broadly, you can like the bulk of them. I do. I think that Jordan Pickford, Travers has come in. He's one of those ones where, good solid backup there. Jake O'Brien, Tarkowski, Branthwaite, Mikolenko, also Asnu's come in, who I quite like as a player from an attacking point of view. Dewsbury Hall, you know what you're going to get, and he can play in loads of different positions. James Garner, exactly the same. So there's not loads of numbers. Dwight McNeil can win you a game. Iliman Ndiaye, I think, is going to continue to be absolutely crucial for this team. And you've kind of got two, hard-working, physical strikers up top. So there's so much to like. You add in Grealish, you add in David Moyes in a new stadium where the fans are so excited about a new star. You add in quite possibly Tyler Dibbling, and all of a sudden you've got a really solid 11 there that I think will be horrible to play against, will play with a pace and a flair that people will enjoy. And I think it will overall be a great first season for Everton in the new stadium.
We're officially launching the JLA Tactics board. I have had so many questions about this, and you've seen it. You've seen it on the JLA channel, you've seen it on the Premier League channel, you've even seen it on television. We've even tested it with an ex-England manager, but now it's your turn. It's your time. All you need to do is sign up and pick a subscription plan that suits you. Now, there's a plan for absolutely everyone. You can use the board for free, and you can gain access to a variety of free tools. But if you want to take up your analysis to the next level, the advanced plan will grant you access to every tool that I have. You'll be able to create custom squads, save up to 20 custom tactics per team, analyze video footage in MediaDraw, and so much more. And you can get all of that for £6.99. So, whether you're a content creator, an analyst, a coach, or if you just simply love the game, there is a plan that suits you. Click the link below to get started.
Next up, Fulham. Now, no one's talking about Fulham, but I think they're going to have a really solid season because of the continuity that they've got in their team, and for one crucial reason. So let's have a look at the squad firstly. What's really great about this squad is that you kind of got, generally, you've got two banks of players, two players in every position. And look, Iwobi and Smith Rowe can obviously come into these areas as well. You've got a lot of players who can play in different areas of the pitch, a few different profiles here and there, but a lot of players that are kind of similar. And so that allows, generally, over the course of the season, for everyone to get minutes and everyone to get games. And that's the key reason when it comes to Fulham that I've put them in 10th. I like the continuity, but I like both the age and the experience of this team. First of all, in terms of experience, no team has had more games per player. So on average, 116 games per player. That is the most in the Premier League by 3 games. And so with that, you'd probably think that Fulham are ancient, but they're not. Let's have a look at their last pre-season game, and you can see, if you click here, you can see the age of this squad, and in the top left, 28.2 is the average age of this final 11 against, who did they play? Eintracht Frankfurt. And you can see this is pretty much the kind of team that they would look to play in that opening game. So like for like from last season. So you've got that continuity there, and that's with Joshua King, who's a really exciting player to keep an eye on this year, who's just 18. So he's someone to watch this year, with the fact that he's obviously playing this initial game or the last game going into the new season. But I just like Fulham. We know what they're about. We know how they play. You know Robinson's going to bomb on down that left-hand side. You know they've got technical quality. You know they've got someone like Jimenez, who's probably, not going to go anywhere, and you might get another year out of him. Maybe you can bring in another striker. Is Muniz going to get pinched? That might be one problem, but I actually think they'll pick up some gems as well before the end of the window. And so I like Fulham, and I think they've got a solid set of pros. It's a very Fulham, top level of Fulham, with the Damien Duff years. It's that kind of squad, and I think they'll have a good year. I think they'll finish 10th. Right, 9th spot, and it's a team that I think most fans will accept that they're in this position. Maybe they won't, but also they're disappointed with the summer. It's been a disastrous summer for Newcastle United, and I've got some bad news and some good news. So let's start with the bad news, and I'll give you the good news. If you're able to get this player. So Alexander Isak, of course, is the story of the summer, and he could well be the story of the winter and the season for Newcastle this year because of the influence they had last year. It is a massive hole in this team if you lose Alexander Isak at the time of recording. Of course, he's not gone to Liverpool. You wonder if it will happen. You expect that it will happen, really. And of course, you're losing your top scorer, the amount of goals and assists. Also, the link up with Jacob Murphy, I think. It's a big part of his assists, been assisting Alexander Isak. So can you plug and play that? Probably not overall. But can you continue to kind of grow as a team and it not be a total car crash? Absolutely. And one player that it seems like Newcastle are confident in getting, and he definitely wants to go there. Well, there's two. There's Nicholas Jackson. There's also Johan Visser. And Johan Visser is another one where I think a lot of people will kind of go, oh, he's not really up to it. But he is a goal scorer for a team that likes to break with intensity. And so in terms of him stepping in and being a fit, yes, he's not 6'4", stunning striker in the sense of like everything you'd want as a football fan. It is misleading, but Brentford go for those kind of players. And the goals that he scores and the areas in which he scores them, every different corner. And look, right-footed goals, he's got a few there, you can see. Left-footed goals. So he's scoring with both his right and his left foot. That, for me, is a really good sign. Did you have a shot from there? That's mental. The facts are, when we are recording right now, all seems lost. But this will be a Newcastle side that will have a lot of money to spend if it happens. And if it doesn't, then you've got Alexander Isak. And he will still have to bite down and play. He'll have to get on with it. Will that have a ripple effect on the rest of the team? Who knows? But this is a well-run club with a manager that is absolutely loved. They've got Champions League this year. That is the sort of sad part in all of this, is that half of the work was done in terms of trimming the fat and hopefully trying to lift the ceiling of this group, but it's not been able to be done. And that's why I think there will be a drop-off, maybe even a tricky start to the season, especially with Champions League football as part of that. But I expect reinforcements. There's a good team in there as well. And I think as long as they get away with not having too many injuries, I think they'll still be okay. I mean, 9th isn't where they want to be, but I don't think 9th is a disaster for Newcastle, in my opinion. In 8th spot, I'm going to go for Brighton, who dropped from 7th spot this morning as well. Let's have a look at their squad. This is the reason why I think they will do well this year. First of all, no Europe. Second of all, look at the squad depth that they've got. A lot of these players might go out on loan, who knows. One development, Vaiva does seem to be the right back of choice this year instead of midfield, and there are a lot of midfield options. We still don't know what's happening with Baleba at the moment, but overall the the floor is pretty high. The potential's certainly there. You've got some new signings in Kostas Simas as well, a Greek pair. Welbeck, I think, has definitely got another year in him. And two players I really want to highlight, O'Reilly and Rutter, who I think will be the starting kind of forward pair, but there's so much fluidity to this team. I'm intrigued to see how they set up and if Baleba is there, and because I really think Neve was talking about this. She thinks he could have a big year this year. And I think it makes a lot of sense as he continues to kind of grow up. And that's why probably Manny and I want to get him now before he's too big of a deal. Reinforcements in centre-back as well. Webster's just gone down with a bad injury, which is a shame. Pascagli's come in. Eagle's a really good player. Dunk starting to maybe get a little bit older, but you've got Van Hecke as a really great player as well. Gomez can fill in, I think, at centre-back as well. So lots of options all over the pitch. No Europe. Pace, Minte as well, I expect to have a good season this year. I think the ripening of the bulk of the squad will be nice to see. I think it's going to be a big year for Hersla, and I think they'll do well. 7th spot, I put them up this morning after a bit of deliberation. I'm going to go for Tottenham in 7th. Of course, they've got to deal with Champions League football. Some big injuries already going into the season. Madison and Kulusevski and Solanke, which does worry me. But I'm backing Frank. I am backing Frank. I think it'd be one where maybe it won't be as outrageously exciting, but he does want his teams to play on the front foot. And I was looking at kind of his win percentage, because of course the difficult thing with Tottenham is what they did last season in the league. It was really weird, wasn't it? But generally, the managers that have done okay, they've had a sort of 50% win ratio. And as you can see, look, Postecoglou is obviously falling miles off it. And you can see from the positions in the league, they are generally around this area of 5th to 8th, right? So I don't think, I like Frank. I back Frank, Thomas Frank. I think he'll do really well. So question is, and a question for you as well, can he get a 50% win ratio? I think he can. I think he's got so much more kind of weaponry for him to utilize, a lot of potential in those players. His he makes players better. He makes teams function better. He wins that XG battle. He's more pragmatic, but also on the front foot with it. I really, really like him. And so if he can get that 50% win ratio, that's about 57 points. If you can get 57 points last year, 61 points got you 8th. The last 3 or 4 seasons, around 60, 61 will get you 8th spot. So add a couple of draws in there. I think all in all, Frank will have a good solid first season. I think the stock of a lot of players will return to a higher level. And I think all in, finishing 7th in your first season at Tottenham, I think there'll be cause for optimism going into next summer. Whereas this year, it does feel a little bit like a powder keg. But I think Frank can absorb that. Right, we're into the top 6 now. Lots of exciting signings to discuss. But I'd like to discuss you signing for Team JLA. The JLA Substack is a new place for our community. You know how special our community is. So if you want that next level of analysis from our tactical writers, or one-on-one conversations with myself where I can maybe give a little bit of advice, or we can talk about questions that I don't get to talk about on this channel, then come and sign for Team JLA. The JLA Substack, there's a link in the description. Thanks for listening. Right, let's get into this. Top 6. I'm going for Man United to make one hell of a jump up in the league. And I'm nervous about doing this. I never thought I'd get anywhere near putting them into 6th spot, but there are just so many elements here at play that I think will lend to Man United kind of picking themselves off the floor and starting to move up the table and play good football as well. This is a team that's going to play really fast attacking football, and there's a lot of youth in that team as well. No, Europe is a huge asset to Amorim. There's no excuses for him to not get this team playing the way he wants them to play, and the signings have been crucial. Have a look at this. So these are the goals in the Premier League last season. So this is essentially going to be your right wing back. So there's goals from this guy. This could be one of your 2 in a double pivot. So that's exciting as well. And then Garnacho, Højlund, Xerxes, there was nothing from an attacking point of view. Now, if we move on to the signings this season, the one thing you can be sure of, I think, this year is goals. Cunha and Burma and Seshko as a 3 in this system, I like it. I really like it. I think they're going to dovetail really nicely. I've really enjoyed lots of players actually for Man United pre-season. I think Mason Mount looks rejuvenated. I think Bruno Fernandes continues to look great. I think that Yoro looks fantastic on that right-hand side. I think they're finding their feet. Dorgu, I really like as a left-back as well. And I think with all those pieces put together, I actually think it'll be a really optimistic, enjoyable season for Man United. Maybe the odd slapping here and there, but I think they will I think they'll pick themselves off the floor. Maybe I'm going too big for them. I don't know. But I think they've addressed a lot of crucial areas. If they can get themselves a centre midfielder in Baleba, then I think they'll probably be in and around the same area. But I think there will be a lot of kind of hope by the end of this season for Man United fans. Well, that's my gut feeling anyway. Probably a shock for some people, but in 5th spot, I'm going to go for Aston Villa. I just really like this squad. I like the contract extensions that have occurred with lots of Kamara and Morgan Rogers a bit previously than that. And I think they've looked really good in pre-season. Retaining Martinez, like, is he going to stay? I don't know. But what a goalkeeper to have in this group. And again, it's the continuity that we've seen with some of these other clubs. They have retained it as well. And the signing of Gesund, that was exactly what they needed. They needed that backup. And he'll get games, obviously, in the Europa League. He can come play on this right-hand side as well. He's really good in the half space as well. He's a really fun, exciting player. He's got great finishing ability as well. But you've got that backup striker now. Buendia's been really good in pre-season for this team. You've got Kamara and Tielemans and Onana. That's a really strong midfield. Rogers, I know he's got an injury at the moment, but I think there's quality there. Will Ramsey go? Maybe you say this squad's a little bit light, but I think generally you've got 2 good players in most positions. The right back, maybe you can, maybe you could add another player there. I don't know, but I quite like Cash. Conster's one of the best centre-backs in the league, in my opinion. Pau Torres, I really enjoy. Mings, you've got that leadership there. Martinez, we know, is a really, really good goalkeeper. And Watkins, I think, will bang in the goals like he always does. So I think Aston Villa, going from Champions League last season to Europa League this season, I think it's something they're excited to be in that. And I think I think they might go and win that Europa League. That's why they might drop off a little bit. And I think the top 4 may be just a little bit too far ahead of them anyway. But I think it'll be a really good season. Unai Emery's got what he wants. I think Marlon will score a lot of goals on this side. They'll focus down this left-hand side and then work their way in. And they've got a lot of talented players there, a lot of men, a lot of pros, a lot of experience. So I think Aston Villa are going to have a good season this year. I feel good about them. And I think they'll finish 5th. In 4th spot, I've got the world champions, Chelsea. This was tough. And actually, a couple of days ago, I was kind of flirting with the fact that they could well do it. And actually, first thing I will say is I think they'll be incredibly close to getting over 80 points. And the recruitment has been really strong. Obviously, the squad is enormous, as we know, but the quality is really there. They remind me a little bit of Arsenal in 22-23, where it's like they're kind of young and excited, but they're together. And obviously, having won the Club World Cup, that's huge for them. Bringing in the likes of Pedro, who I think is going to have an enormously good season, and having him and Delap as that front two. Jackson, will he go? I imagine they'll probably try and cash in on him at some point. But the depth there, from the attacking point of view, is huge. That was a problem last season. The star quality of Palmer, Caicedo. There's so much quality in there. Neto's gone to a new level recently. I think he'll have a huge season. One question mark is, with Madueke going out, Beno Gittins coming in, how much of an upgrade is that on the left-hand side? Time will tell, but they obviously sold him for a reason, and his market value is very high. Ogachukwu, you've gone, son, so we'll let you go over there. The problem for me is this. It's stacked, and it's young, and it's exciting in terms of potential. This centre-back area, and you need to win a league. It's about your defense. I think from a leadership point of view, there's maybe a little bit short there in terms of a couple of guys, and that centre back position is a great place to have it. But also, Fofana can't stay fit. Colwell now. I think the Colwell thing is a big one for me, and I was already a bit nervous about the centre back positions. Have they got the out and out quality, or is the midfield good enough to kind of protect that back line for them not to get hurt? That's a question for me. I just wonder. Now, will they go out and buy someone? Very possibly. Who knows? But at the moment, that defence, I think, could maybe hurt them. And as I say, with it being similar to maybe Arsenal in 22-23, it's one where I expect them to, as I said, get close to 80 points, maybe get over the line, because they've got so much excitement and players that can win games, but also a midfield that can make you quit. But there's still a lot of players there that could go and get injured. Reece James, Lavia, and that is a bit of a concern for me. I feel like they're just 1 year away, but they could well be in a title race come March. Right, there's only 3 spots left, and in 3rd place is going to be a bit of a shock for people, but you need to hear me out, okay? Because I actually see this team as underdogs, and you probably guessed it already. I'm going to go for Liverpool in 3rd spot. So let me explain. Hear me out. I feel like they are actually, despite the players that they brought in, who are so exciting, and I think you can absolutely argue are an upgrade on, the previous iteration with the players going out. It's still a lot of change. And from an attacking point of view, I think I'm going to enjoy watching Liverpool more than any other team in this league this year. But when I was thinking about them winning the league and the quality that you have to offer, not quality, just maybe the efficiency that you need to offer, to lose Diego Jota, to lose Nunez, Diaz and Trent, that's a lot of change. And Frimpong and Kirk is so exciting. Ekitike is so exciting. And Wirtz is, I've said it on the ripple effect, you've bought a Premier League great there and then. But the way with which you will play is going to change. And for me, this feels like this is the transitional season that Arne Slot would have had last year in most jobs, but because he had such continuity in that group, he stuck with it, and that was smart, and he made a couple of tweaks here and there. But I think he knows he needs to kind of break it a little bit to allow this team to continue to win for the rest of this decade, and I think that's what he's doing. I'm excited, and I think it's those first 3 games. I look at those first 3 games, and you've got, well, first of all, you've got Bournemouth, who in transition are going to attack those spaces because Liverpool are really going to push up a lot of players, which is fine and understandable, but there's going to be growing pains, I think, with that. You've got Newcastle after that, and you've got Arsenal after that. And that Newcastle game is going to be pretty spicy, and Newcastle and Liverpool games have always been that way, right? But if you bring Isak in, who again takes his team to a whole new level, and the overall 11, is it better than last year? I think it probably is. But that chemistry, I just can't get away from it. And I'm more than happy to be wrong, but it's just how I feel right now. And the other thing that I think is really important here is that I think teams that win the league concede around 35 goals or fewer if you look at the last few seasons. And last season, Liverpool conceded like 44, but they kind of, the season was over, so they kind of switched off and conceded more goals and didn't win, I think, the last 4 games. So they need to concede 35 goals or fewer. And I think with the change that's here and the attacking flair that we're going to see, I think going down the other end, I think teams will be able to utilize that space in transition. And I think there will be some growing pains. And as I say, it's not one where like you're going to use Arne Slot, or it's not one where I don't think they'll get to 80 points. I think they'll get to 80 points. And I think to win the league, you need 85 plus, especially with the quality that this top 4 have got. But I just think they might just miss out because of their defensive frailties, because they're going to be attacking and working on that and learning about that, and have a team that has the sensibilities to go and be that way. That and the change with how they're going to play, it will be different. And so that will take a minute. And so because of that, I'm putting them in third. So we're down to the final 2, and I have flip-flopped on this. And of course, it's Man City and it's Arsenal. And have a quick look at the table here. I think there's a couple of questions I've asked myself. So when I've spoken about this, in terms of the amount of goals that you probably need, I think you need around 85 goals. Let's say 86 goals, right? And in terms of goals conceded, as I've said, I think you need to concede around 35, or not too many more than that, to go and win the league. And obviously, of course, it's not an exact science, but it's kind of where my head's going. So you've got 2 sides of it. You've got an Arsenal side who have a great defence, an incredible defence, but couldn't score the goals last season. So will that change this year with the signings that they brought in? Man City, it was the other side of it, right? They kind of were able to, probably didn't score enough goals, but that was probably a game state thing as much as anything else, but conceded way too many. But that said, they finished the season really strong. So when it comes to these 2 teams and the players that they brought in, it's fascinating because I think both teams have added to their teams in real depth. Like in terms of Man City, fixing some of the problems from before, that midfield now has some numbers. And one thing that was missing from both of these teams, you had Rodri out for the whole of the season, which I think people got bored of that conversation. But that's the Ballon d'Or winner. Think about how important he has been for that group. And you saw it. You saw it like a house of cards. It fell, in my opinion. So for him to be back, obviously he's injured again. Can he be fit for the whole season? But the players that they brought in are so exciting. Trafford, Naipan, by the way, is going to be a really exciting player. The squad as a whole is amazing. Reinders, wow. Him and Rodri in that double pivot. You've got attacking ability as well as snuffing out, defensive transition. Ryan Cherky is so exciting as a player. Nori's going to carry the ball for them. You got depth with Gonzalez, Marmoush, of course, coming in January as well. Lots of great options, and the squad is absolutely stacked. If you get to the midfield area in terms of depth and quality, Oscar Bob getting involved in all of this, by the way, so exciting. Phil Foden can only be better. And are they still going to buy another player as well? That's the thing I wonder as well. Links with Savinho going to Tottenham, which I think would be great for Tottenham. Hang on, let me think about that. Yeah, of course, he's a great player. But the quality is there. Now, Arsenal, the big question for me when it comes to Arsenal is how can they add at least 15 goals? Can they add 15 goals? And then the noise around Arsenal. I think with Man City, of course, you're just expecting them to always be great, but I think the overall noise is not always there. With Arsenal, I think that the noise is going to be huge, and everyone's kind of saying it's now or never. But in terms of adding goals to this team, I do feel like there are a lot of goals that can be added, because in terms of the players that, of course, they brought in, Gyökeres. I think Gyökeres is, he's a bulldog, isn't he? He's just going to knock doors down, and I like that. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, because I think it will facilitate some of the other players in the team. In terms of Mosquera coming in, that backup from a defensive point of view with Premier League experience. Nani Madueke, I think, got 11 goals last year. Okay, yeah, there was a hat-trick in there against Wolves, but still, I think he's an exciting player, and he's going to add goals and creativity to this team. Norgard, a great backup. Zubamende will move the ball quicker for them. So the signings, I think, really do add a lot to this group. But is there 15 goals in that group? And also from, I guess, a defensive point of view, can they stay at 35? Man City, I think they're going to control games. I think they're going to dominate games. And I think they've got so much quality there as well. So my head says one thing and my gut is saying another. It's not my heart, don't worry. My gut is saying another. And I'm going to go with my gut. And this will be a bit of a shock to people. I think Arsenal are going to do it. I think they may still bring in another player. I think Arteta is a world-class manager. And I think he has added goals. I think if you think of last season, you think of the suspensions and you think of the injuries, you think of the red cards in game, you think of Saka being out for as long as he was, and then you think of the additions. Havertz being out for the second half of the season as well. They should play with that striker. Bring in Madueke, that will help. Gyökeres, that will help. Zubamendi will get them to move quicker. The tempo will get better. I know they've not been brilliant in pre-season, but they're not going to concede many. And the age profile, the experience of this group, it's now. And it would be amiss for me not, like, it's just a bit of fun anyway. So it would be wrong for me to not go with what I think. And I think, can Odegaard be better? Absolutely. I don't think it'd be any worse. I think Man City, if you're going with your head, I think you go with them because they've got people can win a game with the creativity. They've got players that are going to definitely want the ball. You've got Haaland, who's a surefire thing. Yes, there's so many uncertainties with this Arsenal team, but I wonder with Man City if there could still be a couple of injuries. And I think if Rodri has those problems, if Rodri stays fit the whole season long, I think Man City will probably do it. But if he's not, I still think you can get at this team. And Stones, you can't totally trust from an injury point of view. There's a lot of injury question marks with this group. Maybe more from a defensive side than anything else. Kushanov has looked really good in pre-season. As I said, Oscar Bob is back. There's a lot of exciting players. I think Doc is going to be great for them as well. They have so many, and it could go to the last game. And I think both teams could well get, they're all going to need to get over 80 points. But I don't know what it is. I just think the age, the experience, the physicality, the continuity, I think it's Arsenal's season. If that's not enough predictions for you, click right here. For the latest football news, live match updates, and in-depth statistics, get yourself FOTMob for free right now. Links in the description or just scan the QR code.